Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fielka. Today is January 15, 2025. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. Please subscribe. Also want to thank Adam from New York Finnegan's Wake for introducing me to Lorenzo Peyrani. How do you say it, Lorenzo?
Peyrani.
Peyrani. Okay, and
Yeah, very good.
this is part 3, and really exciting. We're going to delve right into music off the bat. What's the function of music?
Well, music is, I think, like other arts, um, interested in revealing the fact that reality is really magical, and I think it has this in common with science too, but not to science as we know it today. So, like other arts, it I think it at the same time reveals something about a reality which is outside ourselves, but at the same time it reveals the fact that this reality participates in us, in our experience in it. So there is this participation that is revealed by all great art. I mean, art points to that. So we're speaking about the function, and I think, yeah, that's the unconscious reason we we do music. We are music maybe more than all other arts uh, has this participatory and reveals this um, magic agency that we have, that our thought has, and it it shows it in a very direct way that words don't usually do. So maybe, yeah, I said more than other arts, maybe because um, other arts are more limited by their means, like they have physical means that restrain what they can do and define what they can do. Or, for example, with literature, they have the limits of language and logic, and music doesn't have that. And so it reveals this power, this connection between something that we could say objective, like the sound or the vibrations of the air, to the frequencies, to something which is inside us and qualitative, intensive, like emotions and the inner experience. And there is less, they are less mediated than in any other kind of art, I guess. So the function of art is expressed in its most peculiar way, and it is this, I think, truth, uh, this making of truth, this showing how truth is made, and in this way it generates the wonder. The more deep the musical experience is, the deeper the musical experience is, the more this possibility for experience to get wet, emotional, drop in with, participation, it becomes very apparent. And so it's something that I guess most people get drawn to when, maybe when they are young. Not everybody gets into literature or cinema, and even less paintings or sculpture or architecture. But music is very popular because I think it's so direct in its
Yeah, direct is really good. There's another word because it sort of contradicts what you're saying. Walter Pater said, all art aspires to the condition of music. Like all painting, architecture, poetry, writing wishes it could be as cool as music. Music's like the coolest thing. But, Thelonious Monk said the opposite in a way. He said, music is math. Well, in a
Okay.
way, it's the opposite of math because I think one of the themes you've discussed in part 1 and 2 that intrigued me was what's the difference, and you already said these two words, between objective and subjective in regards to music. How do you differentiate those two words? Because you bring it up a lot, Lorenzo. You also bring up the word magic, which I like, and I know you're writing your book on magic. But how do you fit that Thelonious Monk line in? Music is math. And in the long run, you've heard Thelonious Monk. It's not math when you listen to Monk. You don't think of it as math, but it is almost very calculated. When
Yes.
people do covers of Monk, it's like, oh my God, give me a break, because they played too many notes. My friend said the best thing about Thelonious Monk. He said Charlie Parker, no, Thelonious Monk heard all the notes Charlie Parker heard, but only decided to play some of them.
Yeah.
Which is the perfect thing. So even Monk had some discernment. He says, I'm not going to, go wild and play like Art Tatum. I'm going to play like Art Tatum and leave out a bunch of the notes. So that's that mathematics. That's so how do you, sorry to go on and on, but how do you apply the Monk quote to your differentiating what is the difference between objective and subjective?
Yeah, I would reply to Monk that in mathematics, different expressions that have can be equivalent, and so you have a long string of numbers and parentheses and stuff, and then you work it out. You simplify, and that it becomes more and more simple, and in the end, it's like 2 = 2, and all the different passages, the simplification, the calculations you went through, gave different expressions that were all mathematically equivalent. The two sides of the expression before and after the sign of equality in all passages accounted for the same value. They were expressed differently. And so, yeah, I would ask maybe Monk if what he means when he says that it's mass, because of course in art it's very different. If you have this long expression with all those parentheses and stuff, I mean, expression is not a contingent aspect, but it's central to the point of art and music. And so back to the difference between subjective and objective. I like to think about it in a semiological way. I like to use Peirce's categories of firstness, secondness, and thirdness. But even without going too deep into that, let's just say that art, and so the subjective world deals with firstness, which are qualities like colors, uh, timbers, generally sounds and taste, everything that is that compose our experience, everything that phenomena are made of. So qualities, they are intensive. What John Locke would have called secondary impressions, and Berkeley would have said, no, these are actually the first, the most fundamental ones. And yeah, from the logical point of view, Berkeley was surely correct. And so Peirce too calls them firstness, not secondness, the qualities, out of which we take ideas that are more abstract, that are secondness is like distance, let's say width or depth, or then volume and speed and weight, and these things that we can measure and that are actually like differences. Like I can see that it is red from here to there, and so out of the firstness of the red, we make out this new register of categories that are what Locke called the primary impressions, wrongly, and that he thought they were primary because he took for granted the realist point of view, that what is objective causes our subjective impression of it, but what underlies color, taste, was the object that could only be defined through those characteristics that were not subjective. So, as I said, the secondness, which is actually something which is always empty because it's just a difference between points. So it's geometrical. It has it regards shapes mostly, also weight, but weight is also derived from an experience that we have of force. We have a firstness in that case, which is a force that resists us, and from this firstness we take out something that we can measure and measure differences between different forces. So we create the idea of mass out of that, of weight. So I was imprecise. I said the weight was a secondness. Not really. Weight is the firstness that's behind the concept that then of mass. And so this objective world is what science deals with, and it's made out of this category, let's call it secondness, that are differences between firstnesses. And firstnesses are the qualities of our experience.
And then the thirdness.
Yeah, the thirdness I related to philosophy, particularly because philosophy entails dialectics, and dialectics goes beyond logics because it can embrace two opposing points of view, which both are logical in themselves, but still coexist at the same time. And so thirdness is the fact that the firstness is taken to stand for the secondness by someone, which is then the semiologically speaking is the interpreter.
Got it. Yeah.
And but we can say that firstness and thirdness are much more similar to one another than secondness. Secondness is the different one, because both firstness and thirdness deal with continuous categories, infinities, and they are not subject to measure, and we cannot make technology out of them, and so there is this very complex relationship between the fact that from a hierarchical point of view, secondness is not as the word says, it's not primary, it cannot be in itself, and it's not even the last. So hierarchically it's just there in the middle of the way, but at the same time it is the different one of the lot, which gives us problematic insights and upon which progress is ultimately based on. It's like there was a continuous dialectical movement between thirdness and secondness in evolving one another.
Yeah, that's good. Let's hold on there, because you almost evoked Frank Zappa saying, "Without deviation, there's no progress." So when you said the word progress, that was funny. And Monk also said there are no wrong notes. So is that kind of ironic, isn't it? If he says music is musicians are mathematicians, and then he says there are no wrong notes, how do you deal with that contradiction?
Well, I think this is the point of view of thirdness as opposed to secondness, meaning that context ultimately gives meaning to the object too.
Yeah.
And so the note in itself cannot be right or wrong. It's in the context, so in the overall relationships that go between the nodes, and this is like an open field, and so the note cannot be said to be wrong or right. This doesn't conflict with the fact that music can be math. I think because you can observe the same thing in some higher mathematics. It's just different from what we usually think of as mathematics.
Really good, Lorenzo, because you bring up so many great thinkers and you really suss it out, articulate and concise. I'm grateful because Harry Smith said he saw America change with music. Music changed America. And he's the guy who spawned Joan Baez and Bob Dylan. He learned from Bruno the purpose of cinema is to put you to sleep. And I loved when you brought up Gurdjieff and you said he was an enemy of sleep, or so you sussed out something about Gurdjieff and the enemy of sleep, but you used the word harmony. So you can go off on that, but here's the question. There's 4 elements or ingredients to music according to Aaron Copland: melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. So first of all, how do you explain what tone color is in non-academic terms? Not timbre. Timbre is academic. What is tone color in non-academic terms? To the normal person on the street, it's easy to say melody, harmony, and rhythm. What is tone color?
Yeah, I think that maybe thinking about the taste or the color, so using some synesthesia, just of course orchestral color, the word itself already tells it. You helping oneself using some other sense can be helpful. Also, I would point to verticality. I don't know if this is academical or not, but from just a very logical, mathematical point of view, let's say, in music, in rhythm, in melody, you have these things that move horizontally. Harmony and color, they are vertical.
Harmony and color are vertical.
Yeah,
Melody is
horizontal.
Horizontal. What is
rhythm?
Wait, what is rhythm then?
Horizontal too.
Horizontal. So you got 2 and 2. It breaks down.
Yes, but then of course, melody also has a vertical component.
Yeah.
So it's more complex, but I would point to the verticality of color, and to the fact that moment by moment you can taste, for example, that you are drinking, let's say, um, a Bloody Mary, okay, and you taste it moment by moment while you drink the Bloody Mary. It has that taste, and so note by note the melody moves around, but still, if it's done by the same instrument, it keeps its taste or its color moment by moment. Uh, these two objects are moving, but I can see the connection between these points because they keep their color. And I would say it's like that with the instrument voice, the quality of
Yeah,
the sound moment
you
by moment.
moment you really made me think of the way that John Cage invented prepared piano, where he put like keys or bolts on the piano strings so that when you hit the piano key, it made a thud like a percussion instrument. And
Yeah,
it was because he was asked to do music for a dance troupe and they were used to African drumming. So he goes, well, I use piano and I'll mute the strings so they sound like a drum. And Corlapana did it with the Hammond organ. He hit the Hammond B organ like this. So it went boom, bap, boop, bap, 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 boom. It made it sound like a drum. So in those four elements, Lorenzo, melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color, when you're writing a Lorenzo song, your own composition, not a commission, your own song, how do you focus or integrate those four? Do you accentuate one more than the other? Are you attracted more to one of those four elements? Or you start with one? Or how do you?
well, it would be fake to pretend to always use the same method, because
Yeah.
sometimes things work better. When things work better, in my opinion, is when everything comes from the tone color. You start from the instrument, and it's the instrument that itself carries the subject, the idea of the music that's to come. So when I managed to create something uh, that naturally came out, for example, preparing what you said, like preparing an instrument. Not my first band, but let's say the one early band that I had. We started by exchanging our instruments, and so we couldn't play,
Yeah.
but we had to invent some way to make the instrument sound anyway interesting and cool, as if we were able to play it. And so we came up with something that could be called like a preparation of the instrument, or we came up with strange ways of playing the instruments. And we also used not traditional instruments, mainly percussions. And this, most of it, when you brought inside, like a new piece of junk taken from uh, the street, or you buy a new pedal effect for the guitar and you start manipulating it and experimenting with it, then you find a new sound, a new tone color. Then it often brings with it a whole atmosphere, a whole idea. And then sometimes, when you're lucky, a piece comes out of it. And then I would say, for my limited abilities, harmony is the thing I think less of, and that, let's say, takes off. Harmony just takes care of itself when I think that the rhythm and the melody and that have come from the tone color are inspired and cool and groovy, then I discover what the harmony is. But I was never the so competent, or never really interested in working down from harmony to the piece. When I tried doing that, it was usually not very inspired, not the best stuff I've done. As I said, the best stuff I've done, they come from the tone color, an idea of rhythm, and then melody, and these three make up the thing. And then I can analyze it and say, okay, this is the key of the piece, or maybe you have a modulation here, but it's not something. If it's good, usually it's not something that I thought of. I just came up with it. It sounded good, and then I can analyze it and say, okay, this sounds good, maybe because it's moving from this key to this other key. Or maybe we can see it from a modal point of view, and let's say, okay, this is a change of mode, and this is why it gives that particular emotion. But this is usually post for me. After the fact, I can see and explain that maybe that's why it works. But all the good stuff that they did, it always came unconsciously from evoking something that was inside of the sound.
They're really good. So when you write your music for your bands, are you writing the lyrics first, or you write the music first? And or is there a process there? How do you integrate that? Or are you just strictly instrumental band?
I never wrote lyrics that went anywhere. In the bands I was in, I came up with musical ideas, but I was not the lyricist. But I'm trying to do that now, and I'm trying both ways. But once again, I think it's better when the music comes first.
Yeah.
If the music works, then it's much easier to understand what words could actually work with it than going the other way around, which is more technical, I guess.
Yeah.
And or maybe not more technical, but just, I don't know, people are more talented and things come more naturally to them, so they can write lyrics and then create the music that fits it. But it would be awkward for me, too difficult, even more difficult than it already is.
But that's a challenge. And McLuhan said an interesting line. I'm curious your reaction, Lorenzo. Song is slowed down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any thoughts on that? Because you grew up with a lot of American music, but you also grew up with Italian music and you speak English very well. So, what do
Thank
you
you.
think of that? The reason cultures have different musical tastes is ultimately connected to language difference.
Yeah, well, first I think we should also take into account the context, like the climate, the nature one lives in, because I've listened many times. There are periods of my life when I go into the rabbit hole of listening to bird song and slow down bird song, and which makes it more uh, appealing and understandable for us humans, because they are faster than us. And I discovered many years ago this incredible fact. But then when you go deeper into it, it's very apparent and everywhere that the birds from different parts of the world, they really sound like the culture and the music and the languages of that part of the world. If you listen to the songs of the Arctic, or let's say Canadian thrushes, like the hermit thrush, and it's so like crystal and a little hieratic, and very virginal and very beautiful. And then you listen to the nightingale of the Caribbeans, or let's say from Amazons in Brazil, and you start hearing all this movement, this party thing going on, and you can really find traces, similarities of the the harmonies, the kind of and rhythms that are used in the South American music. One could say that the birds are imitating the music they hear played by humans, but I think that's too easy also because these birds are often found in very remote regions when there is not like they are here in the samba of Rio de Janeiro all the time. They're deep in the Amazons. So I think that there is a relationship with nature that is different in different parts of the world, in different habitats, and that has to do with the language and the music very much. But since I'm not a realist to core, but I like to mix things up, I'm not sure what comes first. If what we call the Amazon, what we call the hot regions, are a product of certain possibilities of language, and the poles, the cold regions, and everything that comes with it, the languages, the cultures, the people, are also creations of possibilities of language that then are distributed along this kind of sphere, the earth, just because language has these possibilities, or the other way around. If the planet is already there, the hot regions are already there, the cold regions are already there. We just take that impulses. I think it's participatory as often.
Yeah.
So there is something in the Amazons that has been created by the music of those places, just like the music is being created by those places, and it's all interconnected and breathing and differentiating and intermingling all the time.
So well put. In fact, they asked Sun Ra and Eric Dolphy, great jazz avant-gardists, where'd you get your sound? And they would say, listening to the crickets and the birds. And we know Messiaen, the great composer, studied birds. Where did you learn this two ideas? One, to slow down bird songs. Did you get that from someone else, or did you make that up on your own?
No, I think I got it from someone else. I cannot remember now. I was surely interested in what the composer Grise did.
How do you spell his name?
It's Grisey, Grise, Grise,
Okay.
and he is a spectral. Is a part of the spectral movement, spectral music composer, and the greatest in my opinion. And he worked with perception of time, and he had this idea that music was distributed with a part that was the time of I don't know if it's the time of the insects, or maybe the time of the ants, and then the time of humans, and then the time of the whales, and the different aspects of music, like timbre, which is like vertical because it's compressed, as opposed to musical form, which is more large, and melody, what is happening on the middle level, are going on at the same time, but they are like the perception of the small ant, the perception of the human, and the perception of the whale going on at the same time. And this interested me, but then also there are lots of sites nowadays that and there have been for a lot of time, that you get the slow down bird songs. There are big archives of this, and so maybe I took it from that. Also, I was interested in Messiaen, and and I knew that he recorded birds and then slowed them down to transcribe them on the piano. And so I don't remember. It's been with me for a long
Oh,
time, this idea.
you're teaching me so much. I really need to know this, because the other question I'm curious, your origin, Lorenzo, is, do human song affect bird songs? I've never heard of that. Now, did you make that up, or did that come from your studies? Do you think you know where the origin of that question?
When I heard for the first time that slow down nightingale from Brazil or whatever it was, and I immediately noticed that it sounded like a bossa nova, let's say, or some clearly South American music. I was shocked, and that was the first thing that came to mind. It's like, who is imitating who here? I mean, it's too.
You made that. In fact, you made that up. You didn't read that in some musical anthropology book.
I don't think so.
You made that one up yourself. Have you ever talked to other people about that? Have you ever seen anyone say that human sound have affected bird sound? Because this is an amazing phenomenon. It's called biomimicry.
Yeah.
And we imitate animals, but do they imitate us? And my favorite is this rap singer. I can't think of her name now, but they asked her, "Where did you get your singing from?" Now, most black people will say the church. Uh, uh, it's not Queen Latifah. It's Miss Elliott. Missy Elliott. They said, "Where'd you get your sound?" And she said, "From car alarms." How did you learn how to sing? I love that, from car alarms. In fact, James Brown's drummer is another one. They said, "You're the godfather of funk drumming. Where did you get your sound? You're the architect of it." He said, "I lived in Ohio, and one side of my house was a factory and one side was a train track. So it was like," and he just integrated. So it's almost like this question is phenomenal in my study of music for 6-7 decades. Do human sounds affect bird sounds? Amazing. What is more fundamental, music or language?
More fun too.
No, fundamental.
Fundamental. Counterintuitively, I would say language, because I think that when there is music, there's already language, and of course we have to be clear in what we define as language. I don't mean verbal language, of course.
Yeah.
What I mean is that there has to be sense. So the highest level of semantics must be already there for the first musical act, for the first act, really, in the real sense of the word. Act as an active proposition of a subject. There must be sense, and so you get not just meaning, but even sense. It must already be there, and so when there is a musical act, and you can see that in bird songs. I mean, they clearly mean stuff. They have broad meanings, but they communicate, and they are repeated by birds that hear the other bird, and so it's like an extension of their listening. It's like a microphone. You have other birds of your species in hearing sight, and they repeat what they hear. But since they have other birds in their hearing sights, and this goes on, everybody is giving you a synthesis of the whole group. So if there are birds of your species for 50 kilometers, what you get is like uh, um, yeah, a synthesis, a counterpoint of information that really gives you listening ability of everything that's happening around. This idea of biomimicry, yeah, I think we hear birds imitating sounds all of the time
Yeah.
because
We just don't realize it. We don't want to send them residual checks for the melody for the hit song. but
yeah,
that's like I wanted to ask you. Oh, well, you know what you reminded me of is the tuba throat singers or the Bulgarian women's choir. It
mhm.
sounds like one voice when there's many people singing, and it's transcendental. So this is along with that fundamental music or language. Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh. In other words, how could an instrumental make someone laugh? If there's no words, how can you laugh without words?
Because there is already sense, and music has to carry sense, otherwise it's not musical. And so, for example, a composer like Poulenc, or I don't remember the name of the guy. There's a guy who made a piece about a writing machine. I mean, Satie already did something like that, but I'm
You mean
speaking
like a typewriter or like Penguin?
typewriter.
Hey, I'll tell you the one I love, Penguin Cafe Orchestra. They
Yeah,
take a rubber band and a note from a telephone, and they create. It's called chamber rock, but they create the music from. Yeah, it's all those guys. It's Stockhausen and Verez. Verez used sirens. It's using non-instrumental.
yeah. But what I meant with that typewriter machine piece, it was that it was a very very comedic effect. It was. It's really a piece that makes you laugh because the way that it's like a parody of the movement of the typewriter, with its
Okay.
characterization of,
Yeah.
when the satisfaction of ending a sentence and sting
Bing. Oh yeah,
sending.
Bing. You know who does that? That's Jerry Lewis, the comedian.
Okay, also, yeah,
He
yeah,
he plays a song on the typewriter, ding, and then yeah,
yes.
very good.
And also, well, there's a tradition of comedians that worked with music.
Well, yeah, everybody. When I ask that question, everybody says Spike Jones. Look at the majority of Spike Jones is not instrumental. So I always go. I often when they say no, not Spike Jones, because there's like Thelonious Monk makes me laugh. He doesn't have any lyrics, but he goes. It's like, come on, man,
Yes,
funny, but
yes.
it's still, isn't that transcending what semiotics is? You say the word sense, but there's no words there. How can you laugh? Yeah, I guess there's
Because you break you have to have sense to break it,
yeah.
and to get the laughing effect.
No, you're
So
right, because it's like Buster Keaton. He can
yeah,
make you laugh, and there's no words.
yeah. Or think about the Marx brother, Chico.
Yeah.
Chico. Chico used to play, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
He played the piano very well,
that's
and
really good.
and
Yeah.
and he doesn't speak,
Yeah.
but the way he plays the piano, he has a
Yeah.
lot of different tricks to make you
Yeah.
laugh. And
Yeah.
that's not sophisticated as Zappa or Monk. It's something very, it can make a child laugh.
Chico Marx. So all the Marx, the Harpo and Chico playing duets I put them on all the time. I love that. Okay, so now here's the heavy one. We'll go into beef heart land a little.
Yeah.
Why is 4/4 time the most commonly used time signature in Western? He's already laughing before the question's done. In Western music, I have a long intro, so bear with me, Lorenzo.
Okay.
Besides being intuitive and easy, it might be because it's in sync with our heartbeat rhythm. Now, that's like walking or marching might be in 4/4. Captain Beefheart varied from what he called the mama heartbeat. He said that 4/4 time is related to fascism. It is so it is so fixative, so hypnotic, so synthesized to where it's dangerous to the heart. Faster than the heart, disco is dangerous. Beefheart wanted non hypnotic music to break us out of the canatonic state. So, why is 4/4 time the most commonly used time signature in Western music? And any comment on Beefheart's reaction to it?
Yeah. I would like to say that 3/4 is also very common, and one
Yeah,
should think about the fact that we have 4/4, 3/4, and then so-called odd rhythms that are three is not considered odd. All the
yeah,
others, like
yeah.
5, 7, that those stuff, which was the one that actually interested Before the most, and he also went, polyrhythmical. So
Yeah.
uh, I think that there is a part of truth in the fact that we are yeah, we are subjugated by this 4/4 rhythm, and I think it has to do on the deepest level maybe with what Lacan would call uh, the four parts of the discourse. The discourse is is that level which lies usually above our consciousness, so that we are conscious of the single sentences that we say, but we do not realize that when talking to one another we are actually going round and round, and in time we already know actually where people are going with what they are saying, not because we are reading their minds, but because there is a structure, which is a structure, yeah, a structure of discourse inside which we think, and this constrains us because there is this is the origin of neurosis, because you take something as an impossibility, and depending of what let's say where on the four corners of this square you position this impossibility, then there is a certain way that things have to go. So every discourse, apart from the discourse of psychoanalysis, which differentiates itself and is a kind of technique that the analyst has to develop to listen to the other person and not to project. But it's a technique one has to learn, to study. Otherwise, normally, without even realizing it and without being able to actually escape it, we are constrained by the discourse to take sides, like we were always, the lawyer of one of the two sides of the discourse, and one is acting uh, so that things go that way, and everything is worked out on impossibility, because for the discourse to be as convincing as possible, as powerful as possible. One has to rule out all other possibilities. It has to be ineluctable, and if that's a word, I don't know, and unavoidable. It's not you that you are deciding. Things have to go this way. We always, build our our discourses without realizing it this way, that it's not us who want things to, it's that things have to be that way. You cannot.
Wait, is that destiny and fate or something else?
No, I wouldn't say it's destiny or fate. I think it's just a fake impossibility, but that all our discourses are built on impossibility, so that what we say is the only possible way, and
Yeah.
and so we are convincing. We have thought about the other possibilities; they are not viable. So it's not our intention, it's not our will. It's just that we have examined the situation, and the situation then means that we have to act this way. And this is fascism.
Wait, is that logic and reason?
There's a big part of it, but actually, reason works more. The reason, I would say, maybe intellect, that works to prove that the argumentation is correct from the logical point of view, and gives this idea, this fake, this illusion that nothing else exists, because it's impossible, and the only possibility is the one that is being described. And this is how we sustain what we mean all the time, to say something, to say that things are this way and not that way, and to explain why it is. We have to rule out our other possibility using logic, but in this way logic becomes fascist, yeah, because actually there are other possibilities, and the possibilities are infinite, and there is actually no impossibility. So
Yeah.
the impossibility is the big fake, and the 4/4 and 3/4 are a bit like that. They give
Yeah.
you this impression that doing something else is impossible, and Before worked hard to show that that's not true, and that everything is possible musically, and you can have great results without falling into the cliche. And
Listen, Lorenzo, let me interject. I'm going to ask you a question sometime in part 5, 6, or 7, or 8. But I got to tell you the quote. Sun Ra was quoted in New Yorker magazine, of all places, in the last year. The impossible attracts me because everything possible has been done and the world didn't change. But what you were talking about is that you really brought me into another revelation, that strangeness is ignorance meets wonder.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about now? Is that strangeness or something else? Is it
Well, they are closely related. I wasn't thinking about that, but yeah, it's the same thing. Beefheart is strange, and when I was when I was speaking about strangeness, and I was speaking about language, so it was more regarding sentences, meanings. It was not just about sense.
Yeah.
This Now we went with the 4/4 music, and so it was kind of bypassing the level of meaning and dealing with sense directly.
But you have to clarify for me, what's another word for sense? Are you meaning sense? Do you mean visceral. The human body has five senses.
No.
What do you mean by sense?
Well, words can have meanings, but only sentences can have sense. So, meaning is like a definition. It describes what that word, that universal, is with other words, and that's the meaning, of a word. And
Yeah,
apple means apple, and you see it
yeah,
on the dictionary, independent from the context. And letters, they do not have meanings. I mean, they
yeah,
do in Kabbalah, but usually they don't have meanings per se. Uh, they just are qualities. They are just
yeah.
sounds. And with sentences, though, words are put into a context, and that gives them not just meaning, but they become part of a sense. And sense
So
is something.
logic, I mean, it becomes a logical, rational, linear kind of thing. It becomes a sentence as opposed to a word stands on its own. A word doesn't exist unless there's another word next to it.
Well, all words have to live inside a sentence. And
Yeah,
that's why I said that from the very beginning, from music and then from the beginnings of language, sense already had to be there, because
yeah,
the first word had to be a sentence in itself.
yeah,
Like it has to be a nominal sentence.
yeah.
Or uh,
Who
eh,
says this? Who says this best, Lorenzo? That words have meaning, but only sentences have sense.
well, the seminal paper was the difference between Sinn und Bedeutung, because German has very different words. Like Sinn is what I'm translating with sense, and Bedeutung is meaning, if I remember correctly. And I think it was Frege,
How do you
uh,
spell it? How do you spell his name?
Frege.
F as in Frank. F.
France, like France,
Yeah.
Frege. F R
Frege.
E G E,
Okay.
Frege.
And
And
he's a German what? What's his philosopher?
well, he was a mathematician, logician, and philosopher.
Yeah.
He tried to create a
Okay.
complete system of philosophical arithmetic, but then Bertrand Russell came along and showed that it could not be done. It was incomplete with his famous paradox. And Frege then admit, realized that his enterprise was destined to fail, and so he recognized that he was trying to do something impossible. Anyway, Frege was the one who actually, working with logic,
Yeah.
uh, brought to attention to the fact that sense and meaning are very different.
Yeah.
And then, if one wants really to go deep, trying to understand sense, I think the best book is Logic of Sense by Gilles Deleuze.
Yeah.
And there he shows, through an analysis of many authors, but mainly Lewis Carroll,
Oh, really? Wow.
how the stories by Carroll are actually built from logics and mathematics, and that their function, their purpose is to deal with paradoxes, because it's in paradoxes that one really discovers the workings of sense, because it's the nonsense that polarizes this kind of field, which is sense. So, as I was speaking before about an impossibility, uh,
Yeah.
there is a connection here. there is the way that nonsense works is very revealing to how then the field of sense works. And
Yeah, Lorenzo, you made that so clear, but I have to interject one.
please.
Thelonious Monk, back to Thelonious Monk, he said, silence is the loudest sound in the universe. How's that for a paradox? Because I think Lewis Carroll and Thelonious Monk are completely connected now. That Lewis Carroll actually created like the music of Monk from logic and math, and Monk says I'm a mathematician when it doesn't appear to be math. And if you read Lewis Carroll to children, it doesn't appear to be math, you know.
But also, uh, if you think about it, Disney made it much more appealing for children. If you really give Carol to children, I think they usually don't like it very much because I think they understand that something is amiss with these stories. That they're really interested is not what they are interested in. So I've always wondered if this little girl, this Alice, was really so enthralled by the stories that Lewis Carroll was telling her, and if the stories that Carroll was telling her then were really like the stories that he gave us, or maybe
Yeah,
he made them somehow more uh, interesting for children, because the books are really they show the structure, which is kind of logical or illogical,
yeah,
let's say,
no,
but
you're
mathematical.
you're probably very right there. Well, let's go back to Lacan, origin of neurosis. And I was wondering if you know George Lakoff, the cognitive linguistic. We live by metaphors. Anyways, Lakoff
No,
check him out. Lakoff is important. He says that we operate 5% consciously, and we're really operating 90% subconsciously. Now, my time with you for 1 hour now, it seems we're both here present 80 to 90% conscious. But are these people saying we're operating 5% consciously? Is that accurate?
and I don't know how accurate that is. Uh, well, I think that
Is
dealing
that
with
what Lacan was saying, though?
uh, no, Lacan, I think would have never expressed himself this way, because this, I think, there's an idea of uh, a biological structure. I think what they are saying is that the body is taken care of by the system and by the electrical impulses of the nervous system, in a way of which we are only up to the 5% conscious. That's why they can come up with, the measure, the percentage. But Lacan was not interested in that, and I'm not interested in that either. Freud thought, uh, tried to work on a, let's say, materialistic basis in the beginning of his life, but then his big realization was exactly that that there was a psychic field that had to be analyzed in itself, and in the specific, from the language standpoint of view, aside from the bodily, purely bodily connections of the nerves. And his big insight was that it was very controversial. And now we've been, I think, going back since the end of the 70s. Psychoanalysis is not really a thing anymore. It's fallen very much into, well, a bad reputation, and partially this is deserved. I mean, there are, of course, lots of problems, but what was once the big thing, the inspiration from many philosophers and so, is being really degraded. And now the field has been taken up by psychiatrists, and meaning pharmacologists, and so it's become a very different field. And so nowadays, when one thinks about the mind, even so-called intellectuals or people that have should have a preparation of some sort, they often go back to this superposition of the mind and the brain. There are some, or the nervous system, let's say. There are some philosophers that are, or speakers, let's say, that are thinkers that are clear about it, and they are like radicals because they think that it's just that. Like, let's say, Daniel Dennett. I'm not sure, don't remember. Anyway, there are thinkers that bring this to the front, and okay, they defend it, at least because they acknowledge the fact that they are saying something which is radical and also outrageous. But what I mean is that most people actually confuse the two levels uh, without even feeling that they have to respond to it and to defend a position. There is this idea that everything is goes down to the neurology and to the study of the brain, and that the mind is just epiphenomenon, a way of looking at what's happening in the body, a way that, by the way, is very incomplete and maybe even filled with artifacts that are misleading. And
Well, Lorenzo,
I
let me
don't
just
believe that at all.
yeah, here's what that was clear. But here's why I said that Lakoff thing, because you said Lacan, 4 points of discourse above our conscious, above our conscious. So that's where I thought, oh, you might mean like Lakoff. He might mean like Lakoff. And you made that clear. No, that's not what Lacan was saying. But it relates to like great musicians I interview on my podcast will go, don't think when you play music. Like when you improvise, don't think. And I'm like, yeah, right. How do you not reference your licks in your head? Oh, yeah, I'll throw this lick in here. You can't erase all that and just surrender to the moment. Now, we want to believe Cecil Taylor or maybe, the really out improvisers have done that, but they've learned already how to play music really well. And then they transcend that, and it's called go with the flow. And so, is that what Lacan was saying? The 4 points of discord above our conscious.
Well, first, I would like to, because what you said made me think about the struggles that Stockhausen went through exactly because of this. In the times of free jazz and radical improvisation, he
Yeah.
wanted to create a music that had no idioms and that used no idioms inside improvisation. He tried for that. And do you know the pieces for the 7 days of the week by Stockhausen, and his the piece S in particular?
I don't know, but I have heard enough Stockhausen. I can imagine yeah.
But it's very different from the other Stockhausen production because it's improvised,
Oh, I
and so
see.
this is already quite apart. And so it did have scores, but it was just words
Yeah.
telling you how to play the piece. And this final piece, S like the unconscious, so like the it.
You're spelling it EST?
Yes, no, just yes.
Oh, just ES. Okay.
Yes, S, yes, like S, ego, and superego.
Yeah.
And in the piece S, the instructions are uh, meditate until you reach a state of non-thinking, when you reach the state of non-thinking, start playing. As soon as you go back into a state of thinking, stop playing.
Yeah.
And he trained very hard this other. It was a group of 6 people with him. He was playing too, and he was into meditation, so he taught them meditation. And there are 2 recordings of this piece, and it's quite interesting and very peculiar inside of Stockhausen's production. It's from 1968.
Yeah.
And what the yes, it relates, of course, because it's the relationship between parole and langue. So the use of language and the language as it existed before you. So you
Yeah.
have the langue, which is the vocabulary. It's Italian, it's English, it's French, and you have the rules, and you have the words, and you have to use them. And it's not something that you make up on the spot. It's something that was already there.
Yeah.
At the same time, though, there are infinite possibilities, and there is the peculiar way that you use the language, which is parole. They use these French terms because in French you have this difference clear in the language, and that's your use of language. And I think the ideal that the great improvisers, but also, let's say, Joyce and of meditation too, is making so that the parole frees itself of the lung. Of course, it's not that it can do without the lung, but it's the situation where it's not the lung that is enveloping the parole, but it's the parole that envelopes the lung. And so it's when in the hierarchy, which is a moving hierarchy, the sense part becomes so important that all the meanings, the words part, are defined by what is being. The sense is defining the words that compose the sentence, and
Wow.
this is poetry. This is poetry because the poetic effect happens when the word gets a new meaning inside the very text that you are reading, and in so doing it changes the whole world you live in, because changing the meaning of that single word changes every other word, and so that the whole world. And this this happens when the thirdness is really dominating the secondness in a way that it's like an alchemical process. So what is heavy, what keeps you down, gets refined up to the point when it becomes dancing, and you can do everything with it. It's like a matter, a material that you heat to the point where you can do, like exquisite jewelry or very articulate stuff, and then it can get cold again and stabilize. But the moment when parole envelopes slang and thirdness works out, so the sentence takes the power on the words and sense on the meanings, is that the moment when matter gets heated, and the interaction is possible, and one gets that magic.
It reminds me of the word Frank Zappa uses, wavicle. It's where the wave and the particle are one in like a Mobius strip. But again, what he really evoked was Gary Snyder, the nature beat poet. He said the task of the poet is to see the world without language, then put that seeing into language. And it sounds like Stockhausen did that backwards. He did poetry backwards. and so I wanted to read you. Have you ever heard of Pauline Oliveros, Deep Listening?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
uh,
listen, accordion player. Yeah.
accordion. Thank you,
Okay.
accordion player.
She's in in an interview in 1969 in the LA Free Press. They asked Frank Zappa, they said, "You mentioned Pauline Oliveira's work with sound above the audible and below, creating a mass that you like that idea." And I'm going to read you what Frank responded. Frank said, "Not that it created a mass, it created something audible. It produced a sum indifference tone, which happened to be located within the audible frequency range. By combining something so high you couldn't hear it and something so low you couldn't hear, it yields something in the middle that you could hear. Whether or not you liked what you hear in the middle is another question. The concept is brilliant." So, any thoughts on this, metaphorically or literally?
Yeah, we're back to timbre, and yeah, I think that listening is maybe the key word here. I'm not sure what Frank meant there. Uh, if I'm not sure what piece he was what performance was he referring to, and how literal was he. But it seems to me that he is speaking about differences that are not measurable in from the machine, but that sounds that should not be there, but that are actually there in your experience.
Yeah.
And or at least, if maybe it's not that they should not be there, but yet the way you experience it really changes how much you you hear of that. And
Is that overtone? Is that because some people said, so one person said, no, that's wrong what Frank said. Other people just go, I don't know. But there's this one example I've heard in air conditioning machines. They have a buzz that's so high and so low, it cancels it out so you don't hear it. So it's called a sum indifference tone,
yeah,
above
like,
the audible frequency range. Yeah.
yeah, it's a way to cancel sound by phase. You use waves that have same frequency, or not really the same frequency, otherwise it would be hearable, but a multiple of the same frequency, and you set the phase to be exactly opposite to the one of the sound that you want to cancel. This is done in noise reduction. In It's been done in the studio in many ways. I think that the real thing here is that listening has much to do with state of consciousness. That
Yeah.
awareness and listening are synonymous, if possible,
Yeah.
and that listening is at the same time being active and concentrated but empty, because you have to leave room for what you have to listen. So you cannot speak, you have to be silent, and to be passive in that way, because you have to envelop everything that comes. But at the same time, you're very active because you are actively listening. You're
Yeah.
aware of what will go into that room, empty space of silence you have created. And that I think that language, in the way it structures our thoughts, and so the way that the unconscious continuously structures our experience without us noticing it, is is experienced as listening. The way that our unconscious and our conscious are working together, even if we don't know what's in the unconscious, but by listening, we are harmonizing the two.
Yeah.
And this is part of the technique of the therapist, of the psychoanalyst, because listening and the part that the psychoanalyst takes in the Lacan technique is the silent part. You know, the Lacanian psychoanalyst stays there and says nothing, almost nothing, but he is very actively listening.
Yeah.
And it's the analysand. So the patient, it's not called patient, but the let's say the patient is the one who speaks and does the work, but it is possible because it's listened in in a peculiar way by the psychoanalyst.
the
Uh,
doctor the doctor being present, listening, is what makes, yeah, that's a really good observation, because it goes along with this one, Lorenzo. Tom Waits said the best music does not want to be recorded. So
yeah, it's
think
very true.
yeah, think of the time before recording music. You know, my friend has every device ever invented to record music. And I asked him, is that true? And he goes, yeah. Now he knows it's not ruined, isn't the word. It changed us. We we treated music as a ritual or a magical event. When you played music, you were there present, either dancing or humming or hitting a log or being present. Now you record music and it's just wallpaper in the background and you're not conscious. And, I'm curious your thoughts on Tom Waits's. Now, I know the word best doesn't have to, but he kind of pushed it to an extreme to make his point. The best music doesn't want to be recorded. He's anthropomorphizing music, actually. But what's your take on that line?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's absolutely true. As people that try to record themselves and do it good, musicians that record themselves know, you play something without recording it, it's good, then okay, I want to record it, and the second time it's of course it's not the same, and you record like 5 takes and it doesn't come, and then the tape goes out or something like that, and then you do one without recording, and once again it's good, and it's the one that you didn't record. Or you are recording something extremely good and something uh, jams the recording process. An
Yeah,
incident happens, and this is very strong. If you want to, let's say, if you say, I want to do a very simple act like standing for 3 minutes uh, near that wall every day at 3 p.m. and whatever what. Because I don't have other stuff to do at the time. It's just standing there for those 3 minutes. I take this. I swear that I will do it. Then stuff start to happen. If you
yeah,
swear and you engage yourself actively in the you really want to do that, it's very simple, you just have to do that, but then that time of the day something happens. So it's not just regarding music. This is the very fact that magic works, of course, gives you the opposite force, because if you since you participate with the world, with the object, and if you move your hands in this in these waters, let's say the waters are moved by your hand, then of course if you just put your hand there, you will feel the flow and the resistance. It's the very fact that you are trying to do something willingly, that's magically, uh, without a cause, and if you take all causes out, it becomes more apparent. Like I want to stand for 3 minutes at 3 p.m. for all the days of the week. There's no other reason. It's very willing. You just do it because you want to do it consciously. Then, of course, since this is magical, you will feel a resistance, and it's good. It just reminds us, as art does, that it is alive. Um, it is magical.
Really amazing what you touched on, because we could close out soon here and just hope for a part 4, because what you did was, Pascal said all the problems in the world would be solved if humans could just learn how to sit in a room and be silent. You know, good luck. How can you just, and you brought it up with the Stockhouse, and meditate? How do you turn your brain off and stop thinking? How do you become conscious of breathing, like yoga? I do yoga once a week, and it's the best hour of my week, because I'm just sit under a tree and breathe, consciously, and relax. And I don't think, oh, I've got to do something. So, I'm not sure if you're aware of this writer, Clarice Lispector. You know her?
I think I do. Yeah, I haven't read her, but
Yeah.
I know her.
Here's
I had friends who read her.
here's a quote I really am intrigued about, because I'm writing a new essay on questioning. I only achieve simplicity with enormous effort. So long as I have questions to which there are no answers, I shall go on writing. So that's like with you. I know I can ask you any question in the world, and you will give me an answer, but it's usually like, well, that just made me come up with another question. So we'll just go on zooming forever, because I mean, we didn't get to James Joyce,
It's
but
true.
I want to get to him. And I just got an amazing book. I'm not sure if you're aware of it. Uh, Consuming Joyce: 100 Years of Ulysses in
No,
Ireland.
I haven't
Yeah.
heard of that.
And so the first couple pages brings up this quote from Elizabeth Bowen, who said in 1941, in regards to Joyce, "Are we ready to know ourselves?" So
Mhm.
it's amazing, because it seems as though I'm getting to know you and you're getting to know me through the questions I ask. And we have this identity. Like, what is identity in the big picture of all these things you explore, especially like magic? What is identity? What causes the human to feel they are more than just the entire human race, that we're individuals? I mean, are we really individuals, or is this question valid? Are we ready to know ourselves? So I'll ask you that question in closing, and you can expound on it, Lorenzo. Are we ready to know ourselves?
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. It would be great, to see some real evolution. I think it's very idealistic. How what's harder than seeing a real change of awareness. I mean, many things do change, but awareness is like the hardest thing to raise, and it's always
But
dangerous.
you tend to raise my consciousness, and I hope I do yours. But Alan Watts says, if you figure out who you are, you're fucked. So it's like, are we ready to know ourselves? And my friend told me the roots of that goes way back, like, to the Greeks, to know oneself. Like, why are we trying to figure out who we are when that's the big question. Is this mission in our exchange to know ourselves or something different.
Yeah, I think that this idea of participation and magic that I brought about has much to do with this, the idea that subject and object are related, and so we are the universe, we might say. Is very related to, for example, Jung. I think that maybe Jung is the guy who did this discourse, that he used this concept of individuation, which is a process by which we move away from the fake projection of ourself, and we move towards the self, which is more much broader and collective.
Yeah.
And so that's usually how to look at it. I would add that there is a very big importance in individuality, and that when we developing language and thinking, we are able to see not just what is around us, but also what could be, what could have been, what might be. And so we start differentiating between different possibilities, and we start projecting to the future and back to the past. And we are always there because we do not really care about what cannot be changed. We try to understand what cannot be changed to see what can be changed, or what could have been changed in the past, where we regret things, or we make plans for things to come. So we live on the meeting points between alternatives. And when this happens, we do not live any longer in the plain habitat we lived in, but we start projecting to the future and to the past, and this feedbacks, so that what we do is influenced by what we might be. And this creates like a double what in the old days cartoons, characters had a little angel or a little devil on their shoulders that were speaking in their ears. And I think those are the feedbacks. Sorry, I will try to silence that.
That's all right. That's the devil and the angel. They're tugging at your shoulder. I'm going to send you, Dental Hygiene Dilemma, the cartoon in 200 Motels, the Zappa film. It's got a great little thing where the devil. I'm going to send it to you at the end. No, that's amazing what you just said, because there was a couple things. I said this a lot in the past, is we know feedback loop. But Marshall said, how about feed forward? And, he got that feedback and feed forward through people like Wyndham Lewis, who said, artists live in the present and write a detailed history of the future. So that's Zappa and Joyce saying all times are happening now, all at onceness. That,
Yes, and it's the individual aspect that creates this angel and devil, because if there was not if it was just the universe, without the universe being forced to pass through the individual to go back to itself, there would not be the choice. The good and evil would not count to be. And I would say maybe good and evil between parentheses, because this good and this evil are maybe both evil, because they are both there just to make a third thing grow out, which is the individual that is conscious of being the universe, but also being the individual at the same time.
Yeah.
And to do that, there's really no other way. I mean, to create a being that is able to choose for themselves, and to do an act which is good, not in the good or evil that we had
Yeah.
before, but good in a more classic sense, in a more Greek sense, something that is whole. Let's say
Yeah.
whole. For an individual, a part, to be able to create something whole, this whole process has to go on, because it would not be whole, it would not be really meaningful if it was not for the possibility of doing it uh, not just wrong but badly, with consequences. And uh, and so I think that these loops, feedback or feed forward loops, have to do the evil guy, the devil, I think comes first, and that's the feedback loop that uh, is trying is like the Hitler in you that wants to conquer the world. Since I am the universe, I mean, the realization at the end is that you are the universe. Okay, then you have this backward loop that feeds this devil into you, that says, okay, then I will do all I can to reach that point where I am the king of the universe. But then, since every other also has this devil, then you get the feedback of everybody else behaving like you are behaving from the future. And this is a more rational, but also in a bad sense, the good in parentheses, which is to control yourself, to be rational. And it's the disposition that says that the individual, on the contrary, must be completely subjected to the group, and so to behave. And that's the good between parentheses part. It's a loop of second generation from the future that tells you, if you want to get the best for you, you have to behave civilly in a normative way. And only from these two things there is enough complexity for the individual to do something which is not just derived from the situation, but is a real expression of something whole, that is meaningful, that has a value.
Yeah. It's matching and making. It's more like making. And I love the word whole because you could spell it WHOLE whole,
Or
or HOLE whole, or holy. Like it's very holy what we're doing. It's full of holes. It's cheap and full of holes like cheese, or it's like the angel, But I'm going to hit the end broadcast button here really soon, but I have one joke. And the guy gets to, now he could be in heaven or hell, but he gets to hell. Jerry gets to hell, and the devil's standing there at the hell gate. And I peek in and I see that they have Zoom sessions with Lorenzo. And, and I say to the devil, "You have Zoom sessions with Lorenzo?" And the devil says, "That's all we got." Now you can flip it, Lorenzo. In my case, it's the other way around. I get to the gates of heaven, and St. Pete is standing there, and I peek in and I go, "You've got Zooms with Lorenzo?" They go, "Yeah, that's all we got."
Oh, yeah.
So it doesn't matter which side you're on. I'll end with
No,
this question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always purgatory, which is more interesting. It's
Purgatory. No, dude, I love these sessions with you, and I look forward to
thank you.
part 4. And we'll start off. What's the difference between being alive and living? So thank you so much, Lorenzo. I really appreciate it. Really enlightening.
Me too.
And I look
Thank
forward
you.
to part 4, whenever that is. Thank you so much,
Thank
dude.
you. Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao.